Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Are your habits holding you back from spiritual growth? Sometimes it's not what you need to start doing, it's what you need to stop doing. Today, I'm going to share 5 things that you need to stop doing in 2025 if you want to grow in your faith and deepen your walk with God. Number 1, it's time to stop neglecting prayer. Prayer is your lifeline to God. Neglecting prayer leads to spiritual stagnation and a ton of missed opportunities to hear from Him. Most people say something along the lines of the fact that they want to hear from God more deeply. And other than reading the Bible, constant conversation with God in prayer is where we hear His voice. You know that you will never hear someone if you don't talk to and have a conversation with them. Neglecting your daily prayer habit is certainly holding you back in your growth. I think it was Oswald Chambers who said, "Prayer does not fit us for the greater work. Prayer is the greater work." What he means is that God's highest priority isn't what you do, but who you are and how readily you come into His presence. Prayer is the greater work because communion with God is our greatest purpose. 1 Thessalonians tells us to pray without ceasing. It's something to always be doing, and yet, as Christians, it's something that's very easy to neglect. I used to struggle with prayer. It wasn't something that I really even knew how to do, and I definitely didn't understand how in the world you could pray without ever stopping. But once I began to grow in my habit of prayer, I began to talk with God on a daily basis, my spiritual growth skyrocketed. It took off. I began to talk with God and hear His voice. When I needed direction and guidance throughout the day, I actually began to hear Him speaking to me exactly the guidance that I needed from Him. If you're ready for your faith to take off in the new year, neglecting prayer is definitely something that you've got to stop to transform your walk with God. Number 2, stop comparing your walk with others. Comparison is this really sneaky thing. I've found that it steals our joy and it does a number of other things. It creates unnecessary guilt in our lives, but it can also become a major source of undeserved pride as well. God isn't comparing you to anyone else. In fact, He's only comparing your present reality with His plan and His purpose for your life. God has a unique plan for your life, so trying to copy off of someone else's life test isn't going to help you get very far. Rick Warren says, God doesn't want you to be someone else, He wants you to be you. This is important because if you find yourself comparing yourself to people who are more spiritually mature than you, you're going to be massively discouraged. And the truth is, there's always going to be someone who has something figured out more than you do. Someone's going to pray more effectively or understand the Bible better or be able to recall and memorize verses or share the gospel more effectively than you. It's always going to happen because we have different spiritual gifts and people are at different levels of spiritual maturity. But also, if you're comparing yourself to someone who is less spiritually mature than you, it leads to you getting puffed up as well. It's easy to say, "Oh, hey, I serve more than they do," or "I'm more generous than that person," or "Wow, I'm actually better at prayer than other people." And that doesn't help you either because pride gets in the way of our walk and our relationship with God as well. That's why Galatians 6:4 says each one of you should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. See, with the plethora of podcasts, TikTok videos, reels, and shorts from all sorts of different professional preachers and various podcasters and Christian influencers, it's really easy to think that they are the standard or to feel like you're not doing enough because you're not keeping up with the viral Christians. But there's a tremendous amount of joy in growing with God when you look at your own life and how far you've come. So pro tip, the only comparison that you should be doing is comparing yourself currently with your past self. How far have you come? Are you growing? Is God changing you? Do you find yourself walking in spiritual maturity that you wouldn't have had before? Do you see more of the fruit of the Spirit in your life? Rejoice in those things, celebrate those things, because those are encouraging. Those keep you going, they keep you motivated, and they're really the only thing that matters. My formula of success is worry about what God wants to do in me and celebrate the growth that I see in others. Worry about that and stop comparing yourself with the masses this year. The next thing I want you to stop doing this year, stop overloading your schedule. Think about how many times you have wanted to spend time with God, but you've just not had enough time. A busy life will leave no room for God. And what is more important than spending time with Him? What are you really going to accomplish on your own that matters more than what God could do if you finally slowed down enough to spend some time with him. This is a huge problem in a lot of our lives, especially as Americans, because we are busy. We fill our calendars. We take pride in how busy we are. We think that success comes from how much we're producing or achieving or how much we have on our plate and our calendar. But here's the thing. Simplifying your schedule creates space for you to hear from God, to reflect, to grow, to pray, to serve, and so much more. And honestly, it's worth asking the question of why we're so busy rushing forward and doing more in hopes that eventually we'll finally have enough time to take a break. I mean, why not just take a break now? Why not just slow down now? It's easy to come up with a long list of stuff that we think we need to do, but in reality, what I'm learning is that this list is actually a lot shorter when I'm able to cross off all the things that I'm doing either to earn someone else's approval or to keep up with someone else's standard, or the tasks that are in my calendar simply for my own pride and ego because I want to talk about them or say I'm doing them, or I just want to feel accomplished for myself. What's amazing is how little anyone else is actually thinking about you. So spending all of your time working for someone else's approval just doesn't make sense. Plus, God's approval of you is not related to how much you are doing or how busy your schedule is. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. That was what Dallas Willard, the great expert on spiritual formation, once said. And maybe it should be no surprise to us that the Psalms even tell us to be still and know that He is God. Why are we told to be still? I think it's because we have a tendency not to be. It's something we need to stop doing this year. I am a recovering busyholic. I used to think that being busy meant that I was being productive for God. I figured that if I was growing in my relationship with God, I would actually be doing more for God. But simplifying my life and making margin has allowed me to actually grow with Him more than I ever did before. And what is margin? I describe it as the difference between your load and your limits. If this is your capacity and this is how full your calendar is, there's no space for God to meet you anywhere along the way. But if your maximum capacity is here and you operate 10, 15, 20% below that by moving some things out of your schedule, saying no to some busy activities, just allowing space in your calendar where nothing is happening, that is the space where God moves. So remember this, most of God's work in you will happen in the margin when nothing else is going on. Think about that. Next, and really quite related, it's time to stop ignoring rest. Think about this, God created rest for a reason. Maybe we should think about the fact that He even put it in the 10 Commandments. Were you aware that Sabbath is one of the 10 Commandments? It's an intentional downtime, a time to stop productivity and achievement and performance and all work to simply allow God to be God. It's the time where our soul is rejuvenated. It's the time we align with God and His will. And there's a lot more I could say about Sabbath and how it really fights the things going on in our flesh. But for now, I'll just say this. If God is telling you to give Him one day where you pause and let Him be God, do you really trust Him if you're unwilling to do it? And second question, if you say that you just can't take the time, then what idols have you allowed into the throne of your life over God? Now, are those harsh words? Maybe, but they aren't meant to be. What I have learned in my own life is that my lack of Sabbath, rest, or just feeling guilty when I do decide to rest, demonstrates a secret idol in my life and a false identity that I didn't realize that I was walking in. God worked 6 days to bring all of creation into existence, and He rested on the seventh. If He can do it, you can do it. Walter Brueggemann says that Sabbath is not simply the pause that refreshes, it is the pause that transforms. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And let's think about all of the high-profile pastors in the church or business leaders who have fallen from places of influence because of burnout that led to a host of different issues, whether it was issues in their marriage, their business, their finances, their integrity. By making the change in your own life, I even wonder what future crisis you could actually avoid ever having to walk through because you allowed yourself to move slow. And here's one last comment. I think in an age where we're so used to machines and smartphones and computers and AI, those things never have to stop. They don't stop moving or producing, but we are not machines. We can't do that. We can't sustain that pace or something breaks. I mean, heck, even with a good machine, you've got to turn it off once in a while. Why do we treat ourselves like a bunch of mechanical parts when God has created us as human beings meant to rest in Him? Probably not the last thing that you need to stop, but maybe one of the most important. It's time to stop living without intentionality. I don't think we talk about this enough. See, faith flourishes when you live your life on purpose. And I just wonder, do you have a clear sense of your purpose? Because one study showed that about 25% of Americans had a clear sense of purpose. To say that another way, somewhere between 70 to 90% of human beings have no clear sense of what they are actually here to do. And I'm willing to bet that the number is even worse when we think about how many people find their purpose in what God says it should be. Now, Abraham Lincoln said that discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. What does he mean by that? Well, I think there's always going to be something or someone clamoring for your attention and your focus. Our ability to say the right yes and the right no come from our clarity on what we are called to do. But here's another thing. Human beings tend to take the path of least resistance. What I mean by that is that without intentionality, we wake up, we walk around mindlessly, we pick the path that leads to the least conflict, avoids the most challenge until we can finally get back to the comfort of our bed at the end of the day to watch our Netflix movie or scroll through social media on our phone. This is not a meaningful existence. It is not what you were made for. Most of us think that life will work itself out in the end. But unless you are clear about what you are here to do and where you are going, you're not going to be able to be intentional about how you get there at the end of your life. And I pray that you don't wake up one day regretting where you've ended up because you were never intentional about the path that you took. The Bible reminds us, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Have a purpose. Now, when I started my faith journey with God, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going or what he wanted me to do, but I was very serious and intentional about trying to figure that out. One of the things I know he's called all of us to do is grow in our character and become like Christ. He wants us to reflect Jesus in our own heart in the way that we walk through things. So just getting intentional about becoming like Jesus could be more direction than you've had before. But one thing I know about myself, I am here to help people grow with God. That's what gets me up every single morning. That's why I do ministry and coaching and why I create videos like this. It's the purpose that keeps me moving forward. And by understanding what God has made me to do, that allows me to say yes to the things that are most important and help me accomplish that goal. And it also allows me to say no to the things that would otherwise get in the way. And here's the secret. The things that most often get in the way aren't always bad things. It's oftentimes really good things that just are not the most purposeful or focused things. So take some time this week to simply ask God, Lord, what am I here for? What have you made me to do? And begin growing in that. So to grow in 2025, stop neglecting prayer, stop comparing your walk with other people. You can't afford to do it. Know that God has more for you in the margins if you will stop overloading your schedule. Get some rest and know that you cannot afford to be passive about your life anymore. Make a change and love yourself enough to take a step in the right direction. So I'm curious, which one of these habits are you going to stop doing this year? Let me know in the comments below because I love to cheer you on. And if you're ready to replace the habits that are draining your life and leaving you feeling stuck and aimless, and you want to replace them with faith-launching, life-changing habits, then I want to encourage you to join my 30-day spiritual growth accelerator. The waitlist is available right now in the description of this video. And in that course, you're going to have the opportunity to learn 6 spiritual disciplines, what they are, why they matter, how to begin practicing them. And you're going to have a system that helps you overcome stagnation and gives you a clear path to growth in just 1 month. Check out the link in the description to get started. And of course, if you want personal coaching with me, I love doing that one-on-one and I'd love to help you as well. So feel free to get in touch with me in the comments. All this is in the description. One more thing before I leave, 2 books I want to recommend. This one right here, A Praying Life, is a great format for helping you start a life of prayer, overcoming cynicism, figuring out the tools that you need to get started, learning how to relate with God as your Father. I think this is effective if you want to stop neglecting prayer. And then on the Sabbath and the rest tip. I love this book, Crazy Busy by Kevin DeYoung. I took the time to read this over a Christmas break and it radically changed my life. What happened was I just began to see all the little subtle secret things that were going on in my own heart that explained, like, why is my calendar so busy? Why am I so much more hectic and rushed than I want to be? Why am I not making the change? I think this really turned the corner for myself and I wanted to share it with you. The link to both these books is in the description. So with that said, I hope it's been helpful for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click this next video for some habits that you can actually start doing this year.